Now, imagine a world where energy is so cheap and affordable that it's accessible by everybody. Now, this fantasy can be our reality through the magic of nuclear power. Now, I'm fascinated by the nuclear process and how it can be used to help tons of people. Nuclear reactors should replace coal power because they're cleaner and more efficient. First, nuclear reactors produce hazardous waste, and during catastrophic events, they can be dumped out into the environment. Second, this hazardous waste can be very detrimental to humans. And finally, during the scientific advancements in the engineering and the design of nuclear reactors, the chances of these bad things happening can be reduced and the efficiency be maximized. The most dangerous types of waste that are produced are the spent fuel rods, and these spent fuel rods are stored deep underground, and over time they can leak into the environment, infecting everything around it with radiation. All reactors pose the risk of having complete system failure that will cause large amounts of highly radioactive materials to go everywhere. Some of the examples are the Chernobyl accident of 1986. This was a result of a poor design on the reactor and an inadequately trained operator. Now, what happened was that there was a steam explosion that started a fire that caused about 5% of the nuclear core to be released into the environment and all over Europe. 30 people were killed, 6,500 cases of thyroid cancer were caused, and 350,000 people were evacuated. And more recently, there's the Fukushima accident of 2011 that was the result of an earthquake. And what happened was a backup generator was damaged that destroyed another reactor that eventually caused a fire to happen in reactor number 4. And this is where the spent fuel rods were being stored. And because of the fire, a bunch of radioactive material got seeped out into the atmosphere, or not the atmosphere, the environment, and the effect was a radius of about 20 kilometers, and 40,000 people were evacuated. Now you must be wondering, what does radiation poison actually do to us? Well, large amounts of radiation poisoning, or radiation, is called radiation poisoning. And according to the CDC, radiation poisoning causes what is called acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. And some of the symptoms or other syndromes that are associated with ARS are the bone marrow syndrome, and this is when your bone marrow is completely destroyed, and that results in an infection and some hemorrhaging. Then there's the gastrointestinal syndrome, which is when your intestinal tract is destroyed, and this leads to an infection and an electrolyte imbalance. And then there's the cardiovascular/nervous system syndrome. This causes a complete collapse of the cardiovascular and the central nervous system. Now, before I explain why nuclear power is superior to coal, I should tell you what actually happens in a nuclear reactor and what has been done to increase the safety in these nuclear reactors. Now, nuclear reactors work by boiling water to generate steam to spin a turbine that generates electricity. Now, they boil the water through a process called fission, and that is when a uranium atom splits and generates heat that boils the water and also produces neutrons. And these neutrons are going really, really fast, and they slam into other uranium atoms that causes them to split, create more heat, and create more neutrons. And this creates a highly energetic chain reaction that is self-sustaining. Now, there's alternative nuclear fuel that's being researched. The most promising alternative fuel is thorium-232. There's about 3 much as thorium, there's about 3 much as times as thorium as there is uranium. And a well-designed thorium reactor would create cheaper electricity while producing less toxic waste. And also, these thorium reactors could take advantage of the plutonium that was created by the uranium reactors. So it's like a win-win there. And now there's many different types of, or there's 2 different types of radioactive waste that is produced, and that is the low-level waste, which isn't a really big deal, It decays rapidly and then can be disposed of like normal. Then there's the high-level waste, which was the spent fuel rods like we discussed earlier. Now these spent fuel rods must be stored in these huge cement canisters that are deep underground. They have a steel lining and they're filled with water, and they stay there for like ever. And now on to why nuclear power is better than coal power. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, during the combustion of coal, the radioactive materials that are just naturally found on the Earth's crust become concentrated and are released into the environment. Due to this, coal power plants actually produce more radioactive material per kilowatt of energy than nuclear reactors. And according to the World Health Organization, burning these coal produces toxins that kill 7 million people annually. Now, nuclear power has the lowest fatalities per kilowatt of energy. Now, nuclear energy is consistently reliable, and according to the World Nuclear Association, nuclear energy is the third lowest producer of carbon dioxide emissions. It's right there. Now, this means that nuclear is a perfect candidate for baseline energy source. And a baseline energy is the energy that must be on at any given time and is constantly supplying energy to everybody. Now, I'm going to summarize my speech. To begin, nuclear power produces waste that is highly radioactive. And during major accidents, that can leak into the environment. Next, this waste that is produced can severely damage humans that come in contact with it. However, using careful designs and advanced safety techniques, the risks associated with nuclear reactors can be minimized. And because of nuclear production of clean and safe energy, it should replace coal power as the standard for base load energy. If we plan to save our beloved planet by reducing the carbon dioxide emissions, then we must switch from coal power to nuclear power. And that's it.